Credit unions are non-profit organizations that were imported to the United States from Germany in the early 1900s. They were regulated in 1934 by the Federal Credit Union Act, which limits membership to groups having a common bond of occupation or association. Groups from particular geographical areas also were eligible to join credit unions. Credit unions are non-profit organizations. Credit unions are non-profit organizations that were imported to the United States from Germany in the early 1900s. They were regulated in 1934 by the Federal Credit Union Act, which limits membership to groups having a common bond of occupation or association. Groups from particular geographical areas also were eligible to join credit unions. There are two main types of market research. Quantitative research involves collecting a lot of information by using techniques such as questionnaires and other forms of survey. Qualitative research involves working with smaller samples of consumers, often asking them to discuss products and services while researchers take notes about what they have to say. There are two main types of market research. There are two main types of market research. Quantitative research involves collecting a lot of information by using techniques such as questionnaires and other forms of survey. Qualitative research involves working with smaller samples of consumers, often asking them to discuss products and services, while researchers take notes about what they have to say. This course provides an introduction to the history and development of the British legal system. Its aim is to describe the evolution of the common law of England, the legal system of England, and the legal profession of England, and to introduce you to the study of constitutions as law, and to the legal aspects of constitutional system of government. This course provides an introduction to the history and development of the British legal system. Its aim is to describe. This course provides an introduction to the history and development of the British legal system. Its aim is to describe the evolution of common law of the England and legal system of England and the legal profession of England, and to introduce you to the study of constitutional as laws and to the legal aspects of constitutional systems of government. This is an extremely useful resource which ranks books and academic papers on the subject not only in terms of their reliability, but also their readability. As a result, it is likely to save students time and effort that would otherwise have been spent working through a lot of dense texts. This is an extremely useful resource which ranks books and academic papers on the subject not only in terms of their reliability but also their readability. As a result, it is likely to save students time and effort that would otherwise have been spent working through a lot of dense textbooks before finding the one they really need. Closure activities allow participants to consolidate learning, say goodbye to group mates, and attend to any unfinished business prior to the ending of group experience. Generally, these activities involve some reflection upon what has been learned or accomplished during the preceding time together, and a sharing of those thoughts or insights with other participants. Closure activities allow participants to consolidate learning, say goodbye to group mates, and attend to any unfinished business prior to the ending of group experience. Generally, these activities involve some reflection upon what has been learned or accomplished during the preceding time together, and a sharing of those thoughts or insights with other participants. Thus, language acquisition might be like other biological functions. The linguistic clumsiness of tourists and students might be the price we pay for the linguistic genius we displayed as babies, just as a decrepitude of age, just as a decrepitude of age is a price we pay for the vigor of youth. Thus, language acquisition might be like other biological functions. The linguistic clumsiness of tourists and students might be the price we pay for the linguistic genius we displayed as babies, just as a decrepitude of age is a price we pay for the vigor of youth.
I look forward to meeting you and to helping you realize your goals.
I look forward to meeting you and helping you to realize your goals.
Read the fitness center instructions before attempting to use the equipment.
Read the fitness center's instructions before attempting to use the equipment.
The books are filled with drawings of machines he invented when he was a student.
The books are filled with drawings of machines he invented when he was a student.
Financial support can be offered to help pay your fees and other costs.
Financial support can be offered to help you pay for your fees or other costs.
It is necessary to solve the equation to determine the unknown variable.
It is necessary to solve the equation to determine the unknown variable.
The book is informative, but it could be accused of political bias.
The book is informative, but it could be accused of political bias.
During an official ceremony, a memorandum of understanding was signed by the academic dean.
During an official ceremony, a memorandum of understanding was signed by the academic dean.
Our tutorial will take place on the second floor in room 1.
Our tutorials will take place on the second floor in room 1.
The library offers group study rooms so you can work with other students.
The library offers group study rooms so you can work with other students.
Proficiency in a foreign language may be demonstrated by assessment.
Proficiency in a language may be demonstrated by assessment. Average rainfall interest: New York, Dallas, Phoenix, Honolulu, 47.25, 33.70, 7.66, 22%, 22.02. This graph gives information about average rainfall in inches, including New York, Dallas, Phoenix, and Honolulu, According to the graph, the highest figure is showing New York, which is about 47.25. According to the graph, the lowest figure is showing Phoenix, which is about 7.66. According to the graph, the second highest figure is showing Dallas, which is about 33.70. According to the graph, the lowest figure is showing Honolulu, which is about 22.02. According to the graph, different cities have different figures. In conclusion, we can also see 0, 10, 20, 30, 40, and 50. Percentage of students aged 5 to 17 taught at home in USA. 0%, 0.5%. This graph gives information about percentage of students aged 5 to 17 taught at home in USA from 1999 to 2012, including 0%, 0.5%, 1%, 1.5%, 2%, 2.5%, 3%, 3.5%, and 4%. According to the graph, the second highest figure is showing 2007, which is about 2.9%. According to the graph, the second lowest figure is showing 2003, which is about 2.2%. According to the graph, we can also see 1.7% and 3.4%. In conclusion, this picture is very interesting. 其实这种数据图呢，大家在考试的时候，你看到什么就可以说什么，你可以按照模板走，或者说模板的内容讲完了，你图片上还有一些文字啊、数字啊没有念到的，你可以在任何地方，或者说在总结句的时候来补。This graph gives information about percentage of students from disadvantaged backgrounds entering university in England, including 60% increase in 2006, 2007, 2008, 2009, 2010, 2011, 2012, 2013, and 2014 in different years, including 10, 15, and 20%. According to the graph, the highest figure is showing 2014, which is about 20%. According to the graph, different years have different figures. In conclusion, if the figures continue the same trend, it will be hard to predict in the future. Embryo, tadpole. This graph gives information about the life cycle of a frog. According to the graph, the first step is eggs, which is the most important step. According to the graph, the second step is the embryo, which is the second most important step. According to the graph, the third step is tadpole, which is the least important step. After that, it will come to tadpole with 2 legs. After that, it will come to tadpole with 4 legs. Finally, it will become a frog. In conclusion, this process is very interesting. According to the graph, this process has 6 steps. In conclusion, if we want to start again, we can start from the first step.
The first results on the Welsh language were reported in March 2003. The census found that there were 576,000 Welsh speakers aged 3 and over, or 21% of the population, which represents a 2% increase since 1991. The proportion of people in Wales aged 3 and over who can speak, read and write Welsh increased from 13.6% to 16.3% over the period 1991 to 2001. A further 138,000, or 5% of the population, said they understood Welsh but did not speak it. In addition, 84,000 gave a combination of positive responses that was imprecise, making it difficult to work out whether they could understand, speak, read, or write Welsh. The growth in the number of Welsh speakers has occurred largely in the south and east of the country.
This lecture is talking about Welsh language. According to the lecture, the speaker mentioned census found 576,000 Welsh speakers, which is 20.1% of population. According to the lecture, the speaker mentioned 2% increase in 1991 and 3 and over increase from 1991 to 2001. According to the lecture, the speaker mentioned 5% of people can understand Welsh but cannot speak According to lecturer, speaker mentioned, the data is imprecise, making it difficult to work out whether people can speak or write. According to lecturer, the speaker mentioned the growth is in South and East. In conclusion, it's very interesting.
The most visible manifestation of this wealth was a series of grand projects that were begun by Napoleon III, mainly in Paris, soon after he came to power in the 1850s. He said, "I want to be a second Augustus," making reference to the Emperor Augustus's claim that he'd found Rome a city of brick and left it one of marble. In the case of Napoleon III, he found Paris in 1851 a city of cobblestones and twisting medieval streets, and he left it one of asphalt and macadam, because what he began doing was bulldozing old Paris, the ancient medieval part of Paris, and replacing it with wide new boulevards, 85 miles of them, that he lit with some 20,000 gas lamps, which he took out all the old 18th century oil lamps, replaced them with gas, which gave a much cleaner, brighter, regular light. Also 50,000 trees are planted alongside them, many of them the chestnut trees that we now think of as synonymous with Paris. And he drained the streets with 200 miles of sewers, these new famous Parisian sewers beneath the streets, thereby making the city a much more safer, pleasant place to wander, to stroll, to people watch, to have coffee or absinthe in the cafes.
This lecture is talking about the grand projects by Napoleon III in Paris. According to lecturer speaker mentioned, he said, "I want to be a second Augustus," and found Paris in 1851. According to lecturer, the speaker mentioned, "Old Paris, medieval parts 80, 20,000 gas lamps." According to lecturer, the speaker mentioned he replaced them with gas, and which gives a much cleaner, brighter, and regular light. According to a lecturer, the speaker mentioned he made the city safer and more pleasant for people to wander and have coffee. According to a lecturer, this lecture is very interesting. In conclusion, this lecture is talking about the projects.
How many years are in a decade?
10.
What do you use to identify yourself when you arrive in a foreign country?
A passport.
What do you press when you arrive at someone's front door?
The doorbell.
What is the occupational title for the composer of a novel?
Novelist. A novelist.
The terms circumference, diameter, and radius refer most commonly to which geometric shape?
Circle.
What do you call a person who trains a team of athletes?
A coach. Coaches.
What is the term for an extended speech by one person in a play?
A presentation. Talk show.